Hey, what's happening, all you beautiful people out there? Welcome back to The Strange Road. I'm your host, Mikey, and as always, we got Bub riding shotgun.
What's happening?
How you doing, Bub?
Doing great. I got a belly full of food. We are primed and set and ready.
Yep.
You know, dialed in.
We've been working this weekend.
Yeah.
We've been putting in some work, guys. This has been exciting. This is the final record, even though you guys don't know what's coming out, neither do we really. But just put it this way. We've been putting together some great new content for you guys. We're so stoked down here. We got the energy flowing and moving, and we got Stoner and Master Control.
Yeah.
You know, everything technically is going to be super sound tonight.
I feel like an episode pinata. Right? Like we're bursting. We just filled it up and
we're just picking up candy, baby.
We're just waiting to crack this sucker open. So yeah, pretty excited. Really excited.
Absolutely. And thank you, all of you out there listening, watching. Make sure you hit that like, subscribe, notification bell. Writing those reviews really, really helps. You guys have been seeing us on X, Instagram, TikTok. We're booting it all back up, trying to kick a hole in the sky right now.
Yeah.
It's been great. We, like I said, feeling the energy, but it's, you know, all because of you guys out there listening and watching. So thank you, everybody in the chat tonight. You all rule. Let's hop right into it.
Dive in.
Our guest I met, I wouldn't say almost 4 or 5 years ago, through an event that Tom and Terri had, where these guys were giving this, had a whole group of people they brought to the rock shop while we were doing our live stream. If you guys remember the summer solstice event that you may have caught on YouTube, we're going to bring in our guest, Adam Shield of the Feather. Adam is the founder of Tree of Light nonprofit. Adam has, like I said, traveled all over the world with these groups. Adam, how the heck are you, dude? So good to connect with you. It's been a while. I've been stoked to catch up. What's happening?
Yeah, brother. Good to be here. You know, ever since we met, it's been nice to keep up with you. I know you're in Ohio. I'm mostly in the West. And like you said, when we met, it was during a part of the organization that I run and work with. We take groups to sacred sites all over the world. And I can't believe it's already been 10 years now since we've been doing that.
Wow.
But that was one of ours that we talked with Terri and Tom and got to bring a group there. It was more exclusive because it was the whole COVID thing.
Mm-hmm.
So all group of people checking out the mound and doing ceremony. Yeah. It's great to meet you and to stay in contact for sure.
No doubt. Yeah, we were kind of running around with our heads cut off. We had a big production kind of happening, cameras all over the place, but we definitely kept in contact after that. And we have some now mutual friends that you guys have kind of gone out and done some things with, so that's really cool. But we've been staying in contact over the years, and I know there's a few times that you've invited us to some events, and one of these days, man, this year, 2025, we want to get out there, and you're always at the top of my list of, hey, if we want to go out and kind of get in it, this is the guy we talk to.
Sure.
Adam and his group, and your brother Izzy, what a talented guy. We filmed him playing all these amazing native instruments that day. One of these instruments that he built and had to become a whole program where before he could learn how to play it, had to build this. I'm not sure if you know the instrument name, but
yeah, the kora.
The kora, unbelievable. I'd love to find, and we could pull down a clip of that when this releases. That'd be cool to share on socials. But you guys are great. Your whole group was great. We had a blast. But what have you guys been up to lately? And I know you're in Sedona right now. Tell us a little bit about, first of all, Tree of Light and what you guys do and what you got going on.
Yeah, for sure. So Tree of Light is our organization, nonprofit. It's like we've classified it under more of like a native church, so we can continue to operate and run, you know, and safeguard in appliance with all, you know, the general laws and stipulations that there is, you know. And so it really, was a way for us to, you know, with taxes, with all the stuff you have to deal with in a business, you know. And as we started to grow larger, it seemed necessary to then create an organization out of it. And, you know, like we were talking earlier, there's so much that I do within the context of that organization. And, I'll just kind of take you a brief rundown from the beginning, but how it simply started was traveling around almost 10 years ago now, 10 years ago now, with different elders. I started with one elder, then another elder, then another elder, and it just synchronized so perfectly with our schedule and with the change in career and path me and my brother Izzy, as you mentioned, wanted to take. So we learned from these medicine men for years, just traveling, helping them set up events and gatherings for them to share their word, their medicine. And after a few years of that, it turned into me and Izzy like looking at each other and saying, well, let's continue on this path. I think we picked up the right tools and we picked up on everything from these elders that would allow us to continue and keep sharing the word, keep doing ceremony. So that's been most of the premise around what we do, is showing up. We feel like this is the time that we need more people to share in ceremony, to share in culture, to share in tradition, because these are the lost values in our world, currently, and specifically like spiritually speaking. I feel like we've been robbed on that on the level around the world, that we don't know how to properly tune in and tap into our spirit and how to exercise that. When you look at these ancient societies all over the world, that was like the first and foremost thing that they taught the persons with their spirit, and then broke it down all the way into the physical. Now it's backwards. People are taught within the body of self, physical, then maybe to the spiritual, but religious, dogmatic. So it can take away from a lot. So we found that this organization that we created could help bring clarity in a time of need of spiritual upliftment around the world.
I want to ask you a question about that, because you said something I think is super important and is hard to do sometimes because it's not taken politely, or it's seen as encroachment or appropriation. But like you're saying, the sharing of culture, the sharing of information, the sharing of all these experiences. And sometimes, again, like we talk about it a lot with Serpent Mountain, how that kind of has sometimes made it difficult to want to go and experience the mountain a certain way, or et cetera. Or again, it's been
sterilized now.
It gets very difficult sometimes to approach, and sometimes how do you go about it? Because there's a lot of people that want to take part, but they're not really sure how. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and this is a question that we get a lot too when we travel, because we share in some of our traditional ceremonies and ceremonies that have been passed down to us from either the medicine men or the culture that we've been working with. This really allowed and pushed us out into the world. So really, it was after this that me and Izzy were like, well, you know what? We want to go to the four corners of the world and to pray, to connect.
That's cool.
To see where that's going to take us. And that, in doing that, instead of giving up life for a career, or a family. And don't get me wrong, like these are near and dear qualities, I think, to every human, on some level. And that would be great if I could have that potential in the future. I don't have much time now, but I also realize like these times are really encouraging and calling us all to show up in a way that, like, for me, it was just been a burning sensation, in my heart. And that's why I've like followed this path. And it hasn't been the easiest, by no means, because, it's not a 9 to 5. I don't know when I'm going to get paid. For over 10 years, I've been living out of a bag and van, traveling the world, traveling this country and sharing. But, that says something. Like when you're following your agreement with our creator, then that path just naturally seems to be open and liberated for us to show up into, and the rest comes, and that's what I've seen over 10 years now. Can't believe it's been over 10 years living this way. Everything we need comes, there's no self-doubt about any of this. But yeah, I think helping to and coming back to your question, that's been a question that people are like, oh, how can I get into this? And then I simply ask them, I'm like, well, who are your ancestors? Where do you come from?
Good question.
Exactly. That's what I learned.
And I refer it back to them, because if they don't know that, I tell them that that's probably the best gift that you can look into.
Yeah.
Because you're going to find so much there that in your DNA, in your ancestry, that's been left for you to recoup, to heal, to engage with, to become spiritually connected to, in some level, in some way. Like, that really is the starting point. And, carrying that message, it's great to see people like, after the fact or even later down the road say, you know what, Adam, like, you telling me that helped so much, because look what I was been able to find and look where I am now,
Right.
And I tell them, like, these ways are for everyone, but like, look there first and then see what comes after. And if it's still pulling you down this road, that's okay too. But, look at the foundation that is you first.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. And I wanted to ask you, when you bring people around to these sacred sites, one thing at Serpent Mountain, kind of, I don't know if Bub was alluding to it or not, but the former people that used to run Serpent Mountain used to have it very much open to the public, including the Friends of Serpent Mountain and Tom and Terry's groups, where they would bring elders from all over the world and they would do ceremony out there. They did this amazing lighting of the serpent ceremony. And when the corporation that runs it now took it over, and then the Shawnee came in to kind of be, the Native American tribe that kind of, helps run it and everything. They put an end to all of those ceremonies. They put an end to, and then if you go out there with the group, they call you cultural appropriators and racists.
That's what I'm saying. You want to be respectful, but not.
And that's what he's alluding to. And
yeah, I get social anxiety just about the smallest things. Like, these are bigger things that I get much more anxiety about, of wanting to approach it properly, giving it the proper respect it deserves and venerance, and doing, if there is something associated with it as far as a ceremony or a ritual or whatever, doing these processes. Because I don't want to, like, I've been to Serpent Mound many times. I've not had near the experience as anyone else. And maybe I just need to go out there on a day and just be out there all day. Some days I've gone, it's way too hot and I just can't mentally wrap my head around it. Right. And so sometimes I think maybe it's just like user error, right? Like, why doesn't my computer work right? Well, you're doing something wrong, or, you didn't wire this right. And I think sometimes I've not had the right experience or the experience I could have, because some of the variables I'm not taking into consideration. And beyond that, again, how do you go about it as someone, if it's not your native culture or lineage or history, go about it without, again, coming off and appearing as cultural appropriation. Again, it's just, I want to be respectful about it.
And part of that is, like, for me, example, I didn't find out my heritage until well after I was already being drawn to a place like Serpent Mound and all these amazing earthworks, and had been doing my own kind of meditation and ceremony at Serpent Mound, and then eventually meeting Tom and Terri and Jeff and Delcy in these groups that then I got to go to events where there's the Maori were there. Elders from all over came and we drummed, and not me, but they're playing flute and drumming, and we're just with this group of people going around counterclockwise and doing ceremony there. And luckily, before all that ended, I was able to participate kind of in the back. We just hang out. I'm not going to interject myself into anything. But, where my father came from in Mexico, he's got a very watered down Native American blood, even him growing up there. And so, we've been called culture appropriators from an event that we did about Serpent Mound, where people got upset, whether they were with the Shawnee or whoever it was that wrote up a big long article about us. And Tom and Terri, Terri Rivera, she's Native American. And so you see, if there's a white guy talking about Serpent Mound, they just attack.
Yeah.
And
I won't say that outright. It's just you're under much more scrutiny, and for a good reason, whatever. But there just seems almost like you just don't even do it.
There's a barrier.
Yeah, you kind of have your own thoughts and opinions about it, but you keep it to yourself type thing. I don't know.
And I've lost my connection with the place.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, that's what I hear. I mean, and that's the sad thing about that place. Every site is it's really different on how, and I understand like the I don't even know what it is, the parks, or is it federal, is trying to do right by that place by bringing in. But the local indigenous to that place that they're even looking at is more than 500 miles. I think the Shawnee, or aren't they coming out from Oklahoma?
Yes,
I
yes.
hear
But they
all the way
never
from
come.
there up
They
there.
never come. They never hold
Well,
events.
and that's
There's no
it.
work being
It's
done.
like,
They don't hold ceremony there. They don't open to the
yeah,
public. If you want to have ceremony, it can't be. Tom and Terri can't do anything anymore with that place because it's not sanctioned. Which, hey,
yeah,
I'm not speaking poorly or upon any tribe or anybody in this situation. My whole thing is I
totally.
need to try to understand, even if I'm not 100% Native American, I still have a connection to the snake mythology, the serpent mythology. I mean, I've been to
Totally. Yeah.
Teotihuacan, all these amazing places that represent this, the symbol of the snake, before I even knew where my father's heritage came from in that part of Mexico.
Mhm.
And so, I did a lot of work to kind of understand who I was through going to ancient sites. Why am I
Yeah.
not able to tap into this place or have a connection with
Well,
this place? Because I'm not a certain
yeah.
X, Y, or I mean, do you
Yeah.
guys, or do you open up Caucasians and
Oh,
people of
yeah.
different races into your groups? What do the elders that you
Definitely.
work with think
Yeah, I
about
guess that's
this?
a fair
Well, I
fair
think that,
question. Yeah.
yeah, that's, and everyone that I work with, I try to work, because you got two sides of the fence on all this,
Yeah.
and rightfully so. With colonization, there's still those epigenetics of trauma,
Yeah.
Oh,
of
sure.
untrusty, of hate,
Yeah.
but and now we've really seen the repercussions and how long it takes for a culture like that. It's taken us about a century to bounce back and
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
to really come back into the scene and to engage and be part of this country, so to speak, say. And there's still that side of the fence that people, they're like, don't even look at us, leave us alone. And, holding on to that older mentality of hate, of not knowing how to move past through, conflict,
Mm-hmm.
just in general. And then you have the other side of elders, and these are the ones that we work with that are open, that are like, no, everyone's deserving of this, right? Because it's just not about skin color. It's, we bleed the same blood. We're part of the same genetic makeup of earth and sky. And, that we're a human family in all of this. And in the end, it's going to take all of us,
Yeah.
and, now we're at a time, and like I said, with Serpent Mountain, it's a little bit hard because it wasn't until I believe the tribe was sought after, that it wasn't like they were coming up to defend or do ceremonies from the beginning of all of this,
Yeah.
So, and I understand, and I think it's great that people want to get the indigenous opinion in sacred sites and the elements and
Of course.
the state and affairs of the world. That's in prophecy. Prophecy talks about the red man being uplifted in these times, and that people would come to us seeking advice, seeking guidance.
Mm-hmm.
But it's very, and this is what I've seen globally, traveling the world, connecting with indigenous people all over the world. There's always, I think, those people that know the potency and power of these sacred sites that they don't want people to engage with. Or that can even be said for the indigenous. They're like, you don't know what you're playing with, or
Mm-hmm.
you're engaging yourself here. But there's protocols. It's like, great, so teach the people and maybe
Yes.
open that door so people can learn.
Yeah.
And it's I just met Graham Hancock recently.
Oh,
And I had
cool.
a beautiful conversation with him, because he's not been allowed into Serpent Mound at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They've rejected his request and
Mm-hmm.
think he's just a buffoon,
It's a shame.
And he just, it was, I met him in Palenque at the equinox there with
Wow.
a group who were doing ceremony with all these elders. And so I remember I just walked up to the pyramid, and there he was sitting. I'm like, you, Graham Hancock? He's like, yeah. So I just sat down and we just, talked about like the state of the world and these sacred sites and the importance of all of this, because when you break it down and when you come back to it, a lot of times why we're called to these sacred sites is because there's some soul fragmentation taking place there. There's some soul quality pulling and pulling us to these places. And, Egypt's a great example. We've been taking groups there since 2016, but, just how much people recommend or want to go to this, specifically Egypt, it's more people than none that are asking about Egypt. And that was such a large dynasty, That was such a large era of, technological advance, spiritual, and I feel like a lot of our memories live in the most impactful and powerful places that we've incarnated on this earth, that specifically has had a fulfillment in our spirit in some way or another that calls us back there, And these are the times, and this is why I started doing what I started doing in our organization. They're called spirit quests. And it's a quest for people to come to these sacred sites to spiritually find themselves, whatever that means. If that's culturally, if that's ceremonially, if that's to fulfill some soul karmic, debt or whatever with the land in these places. This is what the land was showing me in these sacred sites. It was that they're going through their own evolution process. It was showing me. And that as it goes through its own evolution, there's a placement taking place between this world and the next world. So there's a whole sealing process that each of these sacred sites go to. And it was even showing me back in the times of Egypt, Lemuria, Atlantis, that when a sacred site has fulfilled its purpose or duty or its energetic quality, then it's sealed around that. And then they move on to the next place as not to use up energetically or the resources of that, and then let that culminate or come back to that point. And if it's comes back in time, great. But that these sacred sites were really calling people because it's not only helping us, but it's helping the land too, So just the fact that the spirits had opened that door for me to bring people, and I started to see what was taking place, it was beyond me. I was like, wow, this is what's happening, and this is bigger than I could have even thought. Like, it was something seeing, people a few decades back, like, oh, wow, they get to take these amazing groups and people. I wish I could do that. And then the moment, like I said, me and Izzy started traveling around the world to the four corners to pray, to connect, to, seek the original peoples of the land. It was the moment people were like, wow, what are you doing? We want to be part of that. And then it was like, oh, well, shoot. We asked the people, the locals, the indigenous, and they're like, yeah, bring your people. And so for, like cool. I said, almost 10 years now, it's Egypt, South Africa, New Zealand, Australia, all over the world. And it needs to be done. Like, this is, I'm grateful. Like, I can sit here and say that these sacred sites trust me to bring people. And of course, it's not about the money. I mean, if I was making money, like if I was charging as much as like Bashar or, Braden, they're bringing groups there for $10,000. We're doing the same thing for a fraction of that.
Wow.
And that was our, before we went live, you had talked about how those groups have, for some reason, have getting smaller and smaller and smaller. I mean, that's why, if it becomes about the money, that spiritual connection gets disconnected. Daryl Anka starts driving around in a Benz and you're like, well, okay, somebody's making money here. It's not about the Bashar message anymore. It's more about, and I'm not going to place judgment on anybody, to each his own. Hey, everybody right now, unfortunately, we're stuck in a system where you have to make money to live. You have to make something, you got, everybody
can't live off nothing. Yeah. You can try, but it's also one of those, whatever you're doing, sometimes it's, the money will come, right? Like what you're doing, right? The money follows sometimes. You're not out to make the money, but if money is made from it, that's not your fault. You get what I'm saying? people that are out to just make money, that's a different angle. You're like, listen to what you just said. It's almost like the Forrest Gump scene where he's just running and people are like, what are you doing? He's like, I just felt like running. They're like, what are you guys doing? You're like, we're just praying at these four corners. And they're like, all right, yep. Like, roll that ball, push it down the hill. It'll pick up steam. It'll gain in energy and size and strength. And that's the whole thing, that momentum, right? That's probably the biggest thing about it too.
Definitely. And I think this is one of like the most important and vital things I think we can do for ourselves. You know, of course you can sit there and if you know how to meditate and use, you know, use the quantum world to connect into these sites, you don't need to go there, but that's fun. But you know, what's more fun is to like place yourself in the Great Pyramid, you know, and, or in Machu Picchu or in New Zealand or South Africa. Like our next, so we just had a group to Peru and then Sedona here at the beginning of November. So every year we do about 2 or 3 of them. And this next year will be, well, in the States, I'll say that we take groups to like the main locations, of course, as you know, are Sedona and Shasta, you know, and a lot of fulfillment coming to these places. And then there's also, we've taken groups to Serpent Mound, you know, and then Chaco Canyon and the Medicine Wheel, I would say is our third most that we take people. And
That's
it's the largest.
You invited me to that one, and I really regret not being able to make that. But if that happens again, the Medicine
I think we're going to do it in May.
Okay.
I think we're going to do it in May or June. That'll be our only one this year. Because then after that, I usually bounce between. So like this last year was South America, Central and South America. Next year's Africa. So this next year we'll be taking groups to. We work with the White Lion Trust Foundation.
Oh yeah,
which is run by Mama Linda Tucker.
Yep.
So
she
Mama
used to
Linda's
know
like
the white buffalo lady that we have here in Ohio, Cynthia.
Yes, that's right. She used to work with what was it? Hart?
Cynthia Hart. Yep.
Cynthia Hart. Yeah. Yep. And so she does amazing work with these white lions and uses them as a form of animal communication, spiritual connection. It's just amazing, you know, what you get to experience out there. So I'm grateful, you know, again, to be able to take people to these groups. And then after that will be Egypt.
Nice.
Again, and with our Egyptian family, probably in September. But
nice.
Yeah.
I really want to go
There's
to
always
Shasta.
a lot of beautiful.
I have
you haven't been there?
No.
What?
Right? I know. It's definitely on the list of need to go and stay for an extended period of time and either get a cabin somewhere or camp out or figure out how to be near that area for a while.
It's a big area.
Yeah. There's a lot of stories out of there. There's a lot of research out of there, what have you. But it just feels like there's a lot of energy in that area.
Oh yeah. You know, I've seen a lot here in Sedona, but I would say more like something like, you know, when you see something and it's like, okay, that seems typical. But then when you have another experience and you're like, whoa, was that for real?
Yeah.
I would say that I've had that mostly in Shasta. Like that's where I first saw Bigfoot. That's where I first saw like ships, like in my face, like boom, going off like Star Wars. Like,
whoa.
Wow. Tell us about that.
Yeah.
Which one? The ships?
Anything you like from out that way. Yeah, that all sounds interesting. I mean, I didn't know that you had experiences out there.
Yeah, they're amazing. The experiences you can have, like when you show up to that mountain. I don't know. It just says a lot about that place, you know, and of course Sedona too. But like I said, I've had the most phenomenal experiences out there, and you know, the first time I saw Bigfoot, I was driving and I was coming around, like me and my partner at the time, we were leaving, and she was looking down, and but I was, you know, of course I was driving, so I'm coming around the corner and I see this big thing like walking across the street, like it had already walked across the street and it was starting to descend down the other side of the mountain, like the hill. And as it came out, I was like looking at it, like as I was passing by, and this thing, I don't know, like 8 feet, who knows? but it was white. You know, that's
Whoa.
what got me, was it being white and broad and big, and so then I, like, when I saw that, I was like, "Did you see that?" And she said, "No," and I was like, she's like, "Are you all right?" I'm like, "Yeah, this is what I saw. It's like this monkey cat. I don't know, but it was huge. It was big. It was like 8 feet tall." And she's like, I don't, you know. And then she did a little investigating, and then she popped up on her phone a picture of Hanuman, you know, from the Vedic.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And I was like, if that was to describe something, like, yes, that's what it would be like. Like,
That's
you know,
wild.
that's the closest thing I could see or resemble it to. And then we went with our first spirit quest. Actually, a group saw a Bigfoot out there too. I was a little behind them, but they saw a family, a little one and a big one, running up on the mountain too, right where we were. But they were brown. They had seen like a deer carcass or something, and when they were walking up, and then some shuffling and moving, and then that's when they saw them. And
Wow.
I think they got a picture of it. And that's what I mean. Like, you know, the cool thing about doing these groups too is like the capacity for these elementals, these sprites, these beings to show up.
Yeah.
Because Bigfoot showed up there at the medicine wheel, a fairy. You know, it was like a whole grouping of fairies lived up here. And that one, before I get into the UFO, we were up there with the group, and they were taking photos, and it was his girlfriend and her. She was, he was taking a picture of the view behind her, and they were doing a video. And so he does a whole video. And then, you know, later that night, we were all sitting down and talking, and then they exploded in joy, and they're like, "What's going on?" And they're like, "Look at this." And in the video, you see a stream of light coming in, and then it goes out. And they were like, "What is that?" So that's when they took a still shot, and you zoom in clear as day. You can see this little thing dangling by her knee, like little antennas, like long, wavy hair.
What?
I have this picture to this day.
Damn.
To the T.
Bro.
Like, and that was like,
That's right.
that blew me away. And I had already seen pictures, because one of the medicine men we were traveling with, same thing. He talked about certain places, certain sacred sites that emanate or bring in, because there's a concentration of energy with the planet and the sun taking place.
Yep.
So he says these streams of lights will like get more concentrated and then expand. And then he said from that's when the worlds merge. And I mean, the tribes and others talk about these important times. And that when that happens, and there's these balls of orbs that come off of the band of light, and they start to flow around, and then pop, and then they're in there and they fly around. And he had crazy pictures of them in the tree, just kicking back.
What?
That was the first one
That's
I had ever seen. And gnomes. And I was like, wow. And now to have these pictures for myself, I'm like, you know, it just really tells, I think, of the time, and like them coming back out and being like, hey, we're here. We see you. You know, we can't wait.
Yeah. So wait, you said gnomes? You said gnomes as well?
Yeah. He had seen some gnomes. His story was that he was out in nature by his friend's house, and he's seen these like little pieces of wood, like moving like ants. And so he got closer, but there wasn't ants, and it was petrified wood. And he said it was a gnome, and he started to connect and speak with it. And he was like, "Hey, can I take a picture of you guys?" And this one gnome was like, no, like, we're all dirty, like, we've been working. He's like, "I'll come find you. You know, I'll come find you. And then you can take a picture." And he was like, "All right, cool." So he said he was in the kitchen by the window, and there was like a little knock, and he had showed back up, and he was like all dressed up. You can see it in the reflection. Yeah, he got cleaned up. I was like,
bro, this is so awesome.
And I was like, no way. Like, okay.
I'm just saying, I would love to see that at some point. I've I've started hearing these stories because so when you say no, I'm like, maybe 6 months to a year ago, I might have just been like, but I listened to too many stories where it's like, I'm not going to say there's truth in numbers, but where there's smoke, there's fire, right? So maybe we got to see what's happening there. And you're telling me that this gnome like scrubbed himself up, got
cleaned up,
dusted up, and was like, "Hey, now you can photograph me." That's even better. Well, because typically you try to film or photograph something like this.
Doesn't want filmed or photographed.
Well, especially with a gnome or the little people or whatever, or fairies even. It's like you can't. It's impossible. Nobody can get it to happen. So it's crazy. That's awesome. That's so cool. That's so cool.
And my only experience with the little people was like after my this was a few years back after Sundance, and I was coming back and I stayed at Bears Lodge, known as Devil's Tower, in Wyoming.
Yeah,
camped right outside of the KOA.
Okay, yeah.
I've stayed right by it. Yeah,
by the campground.
Yep.
Yeah, I found a little spot in the back and I parked there and I passed out. But like in the middle of the night, I heard feet scurrying around my vehicle. And, being in that space of Sundance for that long, it's like, you're between worlds because you already sacrificed, you haven't been eating, you're a walking ceremony, And so after that, it's like your mind, your body, your spirit's just so vibrant. And I felt like I was still like fading out between worlds, like grounding back into this world. And even in the sleep time. And then that's when I was like, and I heard this little whispering, and then I heard them running around the vehicle, and I'm like, oh no, like what is here? I put my blanket over my head, and I'm like, no, dude, like, I can't deal with it. And they were just laughing. They were just like, ha, ha, ha. And they were just like running around the vehicle. But it literally was like whatever was below me, I could feel. Like in the, from the vehicle, and it was just like tracing around my vehicle, laughing, and it was interesting.
Little mischievous,
little gremlins,
mischievous.
Yeah, little gremlins.
Yeah, I just watched that again.
More Mogwai than the gremlin.
Oh man, that's interesting.
So let me ask you a question. Do you think that there's something to it where your average everyday person isn't going to be able to tap into this stuff or feel it or see it, where if you kind of have to go through that work maybe to be open enough to be able to get yourself in a position to have that experience? Because the experiences I've had, I've gone through a bunch of things to get me to that point of searching and traveling or to get to that point to have that experience. And it's just a process of like being able to open yourself up. I don't know.
Yeah, I believe so, because they're just as connected and operating from that spiritual world, as we endear to. And there's so many elements. And, I work, one of my good friends is, his name is Ruben Langdon. He has a show on Gaia called Interdimensionals.
Oh yeah,
cool.
Ruben. Yeah, yep. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. And I asked him, I was like, why interdimensional? And he's like, well, in all my work and research, this is what I found that, our star relatives, or not even star relatives, want to be referred to as interdimensionals. They're not extraterrestrials.
Right.
They're interdimensional. And the more, he touched on this and the more I thought on this, I was like, that's right. And I think that's like kind of what these ranches, as I told you, I went to Bradshaw Ranch and Skinwalker Ranch, is showing just the synergism, the connectedness of this world between worlds, and dimensionally speaking. Now that you investigate, and if you've watched that, what they've been doing at Skinwalker Ranch, it's clear as day that there is something operating between this world and the next. That's that they've now shown scientifically speaking.
There's literally a portal there that they have.
There's a portal
shown on camera with
They've
the smoke.
Seen things crawling out of it. They said,
Yeah.
I mean, totally.
Listening,
and this is the whole
Southwest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is where I was at Bradshaw too. exact same things, you know? And I think we're coming to a point in time now, like I said, I feel like the Southwest was, and you talk to Clifford, you talk to a lot of these elders around here,
Mm-hmm.
and you know, the most recent civilization that was in contact was these ancient Pueblo, you
Yep.
know, what they refer to as Anasazi.
Yep.
They really were. And they're still connected to this world. You know, the first time I ever went out there to Chaco Canyon, it was like right when the sun was going down.
Oh,
I found some petroglyphs. I
yeah.
sat in the wall by the petroglyphs and just sun gazed and meditated
They're
while
right by
the
the
sun went down.
campground. They're right by the
Yeah, right there.
petroglyphs are in the campground. You go to the
All
bathroom
right there.
and there's a bathroom there, and you look over and there's petroglyphs
They're right there.
all over. You can literally just, there's a star alignment where I took a lawn chair and me and my wife just sat there right at the alignment and watched the Milky Way rise with that petroglyph.
Yeah.
There was the star system that the petroglyph was completely aligned with. And it's like, there's the bathroom, there's a dude in an A-frame.
Yo, seriously. And when you're connected to that, and you know, like, you can see those worlds, you know, and a lot of them do lie within these sacred sites. And, you know, being there and sun gazing, you know, like if you sun gaze before, when the sun goes down and there's no more light, it's like there's this expansive light, but then eventually it just dims, and then there's nothing. And you're kind of back to your regular vision. But that was the only place that I had ever done that. And then as the sun went down, it didn't dim. The light expanded. And for a minute, I was like, what's happening?
Wow.
Like, what's happening to me? You know? And it expanded so much that it was just gold light all around. And then I could see, like, if it was like light hands coming through the color itself and like caressing me.
Whoa.
And like doing this, like holding me. And I was just like,
wow.
I didn't know what to think. I didn't move for like 20, 30 minutes. I was just like, where am I still in this world, you know, type of deal. But, you know, like to your question, I think it is something that it's like, you know, when we wear a shirt and we get stains and we dirty it up, you know, that's visible, that's seen. And it's like, oh, wow, well, you know, this guy's walking around with a bunch of stains and he's dirty as heck. I think that's very much like in the spiritual world with the elements. And it's like when we keep up with our practices, our meditation, our prayer, all of those so-called physical, or call it what you will, you know, worldly stains that we carry get washed away. But the more that we don't work in ceremony, we don't work within our spirit, and we carry that residue, it's seen, you know. And these fairies, these elements, these Bigfoots can see that and like, yo, maybe not you, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there is that concentration of energy, and now we're coming to a time where we're starting to merge worlds again. You know, the skin of this world and the next world are starting to you know, give birth to a new existence. And this new existence, you know, in prophecy is the new root race, is the eagle and condor, is the eighth fire, is the, you know, the Hopi prophecy, is the Dene prophecy.
Calf woman.
And they all speak into this. Yeah, the calf woman. You know, in our tribe, we talk about the great law of peace and the Ongwehawe, which are the real people. And that's what a lot of, I think, what we're being taught in not just our tribal context, but around the world, and spiritually speaking, culturally speaking, is that we're in a time now, and, you know, we don't need to worry, but the more that we are in our spirit and gift, the more we're showing up, you know, for the world in that way, because that's where we need people right now, you know. Like I said, people have been robbed of their spiritual beliefs and knowing. You know, people are taught how to be an individual first, you know, when it used to be all about tribe, collective consciousness, working together. Now you don't see that. You know, we've lost that quality in the world. And that's where we need to get back to if we're going to rise above all of this. And the clues are clear. That's why I love going to sacred sites, because the blueprint is with those ancient ones. They're with our ancestors, and it's easy. You know, it really is easy. And specifically in this time, when you look at all the great prophets, like the peacemaker in our tribe, or Christ, or Muhammad, or Buddha, or even Thich Nhat Hanh, what do they all talk about? Collectively, what their teachings are bringing people to is a collective understanding and knowing of themselves in the principle of unity. We're in a point in time now that it's not about it's not about this person anymore. It's about how we can collectively come together to build on an organism, just like the earth itself, to comprise with, to go above and beyond what we know as a singular human into a collective living organism, divine organism, orchestration of a greater understanding of the cosmos, the earth, of humans. Like, we're being encouraged to a whole new stepping, but it requires us. And that's a lot of what me and Izzy, we carry too within our ceremony, is starting to exercise this principle of unity, because people have not been doing it. And that's a great tool and practice for where we're going.
So, I mean, it's so hard right now. You see so much division. People are looking for community, and they think they're finding it on TikTok or X or Facebook, or, these kind of echo chambers of, you have the same political beliefs or ideology that I do, or whether it's, like you said earlier, dogmatic religion. But I started to become not as egoic and inside myself and become more connected when I started visiting ancient sites, specifically Serpent Mountain, like we had talked. A lot of my growth came through that. So now that it's been closed down the last 4 years like it has, I've lost my connection, because we go down there and we work and we do events down there, but I haven't made it to the actual mound in years. Because every time we're there, we're doing, and I don't have time. And because, why? Is because it's closed. It's never closed for the sunrise. It's never open for the sunrise or the sunset. They might open it during certain. So how do you do that? What you've learned from these elders? Because it sounds like really that indigenous wisdom, that ancient wisdom of those cultures that are still here, have that message. People need to, and that's why Clifford Mahooty started speaking up, and people like David Lone Bear Senepass, who started opening up these avenues of conversations with all kinds of races and people, because, Western civilization's sick. There's so much division. And how do we get to this unity, dude?
Yeah. That's, and that's a tough question. And it really is a question for the 10%, because really it's going to be about that much that can comprehend or want to actualize into this, because very few people do understand this quality of spirit, and like how important that is for our overall well-being, because it starts at the spirit and then it works its way into the physical. And like I said, we're doing it backwards. Mm-hmm. Everyone learning about the physical first and then trying to get to the spirit or the dogmatic, And like I said, in all the ancient cultures, they taught their young ones first and foremost about their cosmic origins. Because if you know where you come from in the stars, if you know you're tracking, spiritually speaking, you know your role here and now, And that's the beautiful thing about all the ones all over the world, is that they had a tribal context to keep their people safe, to keep their people involved, and there was no judgment or jealousy. I learned from my tata in Guatemala, the Mayan elder there, that everyone had a position, and there was no jealousy. There was no hate amongst one another, because everyone knew from their cosmic origins, from their astrology, from their cosmic cell, who they were. Because that's what they were taught first and foremost. Mm-hmm. And like I said, there's power when you know that, because this is who I am. This is the day I'm born. This is my cause. This is the forecast of Adam, so to say, and this is what it says. This is a potential destiny and, composition of energies that makes up me, so to say, right? And so when everybody in the tribe understands that, and when everybody in the tribe honors that, there's no need for jealousy. Wow. There's no need for hate, because all I know is you're playing your role with Creator.
Right.
Who am I to take that away or say anything else? I'm not. So that's what everyone knew, even to the chief. They knew the chief was brought, that creator sent that person to fulfill that role. So there was never anyone looking down on anyone, from anyone in the agriculture department to the artist to the royalty. Everyone saw each other for what it was worth, eye to eye, you know? And how beautiful would that be if we could get back there?
Well, it's interesting because it's just
not
like
everybody's
anything.
a leader. Not everybody's a farmer, has a green thumb. We're all born with gifts.
Well, again, an analogy of it would be like, say, a football team. The quarterback, yeah, you threw the ball, but if you didn't have a lineman blocking, you didn't have a running back or receiver, if everybody's not doing their part and playing their part, the team is not successful. We won't be successful as a culture, as a species. And so I think that's really incredibly insightful, because I would think people would agree if you looked at it from a hierarchical, like, oh, the chief, well, that was the most important. If we looked at it, but the chief might say, well, no, the farmer, that guy's the most important, or nope, person over there getting, grains or vegetables, nope, they're the most important, or what. I mean, it's really interesting.
And the connection that people have gotten with, in modern day at least, and it's becoming more and more popular, are these shamanic ceremonies that you can book, whether it's mushrooms or ayahuasca. And, psychedelics have kind of played a big role in letting people that grew up in Western civilization to go out and get in the jungle and have these experiences with a shaman-led ceremony or ritual. And then they go back to their life in the city and they're able to heal and get rid of their PTSD or issues or just take their life to the next level. Do you see that as kind of a good window for people to hop into? You got to be careful with some of these shamans, and it's just like anything, and I'm sure you've come across them, but do you see that a lot with as a positive?
You're a tough critic here, Mike, because people ask me this question and I'm the one to be like, you don't need it. You don't need the plant medicine. And honest, you know what? I just did ayahuasca for my first time a couple months ago.
Okay.
Because I was so on the side of like, you know what? We're living in a time now where that is already accessible to us, what that plant can give you. But again, people don't know how to spiritually connect and tap into this technology of self. So I do understand that it is necessary to have these plants, to have these medicines, but as a medicine, like if that's what it's going to take to help you get over that hump or to get over that one thing, that's preventing you, great, but it's nothing to hold on to.
Right.
You talk to people down in South America. I was just talking to them. Some of them do one ceremony in their whole life because that's all they need. And then you look at the Western world and they're sitting every weekend and they're not properly integrating the experience. And it's just one ride after another, like a ticket, like a circus ticket, And it's like, where is this ultimately leading you? So I've always been on the fence, like, you don't need that, And in our way, in our culture, not unless you have a dream, not unless that medicine shows up on your doorstep, not unless there's some sort of calling pulling you there, you don't need it, but yourself best too. If it's like, like, I feel like, I'm going to try this. And if this helps, then I can get to where, I'm looking to be. That's great. But, in our tribal understanding, we don't touch anything that's within that we're not raised with in our environment, in our land itself, and I remember my aunties, they did some combo and one got sick, how I guess you can swell up like a frog when you do it.
Right.
The other one, they weren't given the proper instructions as to what to do if that happens. And it happened. And so it took the other one out of her experience because she was worried about her, the other one, swelling up as a frog. And then afterwards they were like, see, like that's why we don't do these medicines. We don't need it. And she didn't need it. Like, my auntie, she didn't need that extra shot. She maybe needed one. She could have been fine with one, She was in a clear enough space for herself. She didn't need 3, dots. And so I think the plant medicines are one of these that we need to take more seriously. And actually intentionalize, like, and specifically, like, I think people need to be taught more how to intentionalize with these medicines than just being just showing up just to take it. Because you know what, the moment I did it a couple months ago and I intentionalized and asked that medicine to help my body heal, was the moment I seen it come in like a dragon shape shifting into nature, and it went into my different organs and I could feel it like working on what I asked, you know?
Yep.
And so it was just powerful that way. But, you know, I'm a little biased towards it. I love the medicine, but I'm like,
it's like you said, it showed up on my front door. Like it was something that I was definitely praying for, not specifically to have, you know, some kind of ceremony or ritual, but in the way that it happened and the way I kind of got brought into a circle was very organic. And again, it helped me so much, but it's been years since I've gone down that road. And it's, you know, like Ram Dass says, once you get the phone call, you hang up. And I'm not saying I'm hanging up yet, but I think it still has its place. But, you know, it wasn't something that I was chasing down every weekend to have. It's like, whoa, because it was so intense and earth shattering that it's been years and years and years. And I'm still holding on to that experience as something so unbelievably valuable. But, you know, the type of ceremony, you know, one thing you're talking about ceremony, what are some of those processes? I don't know if you're able to share or if that kind of, what you guys, wherever you go and you guys do, is it something that's you guys have picked up from other cultures, or is this something that you've been taught as a young man that you bring into the circle?
Yeah, you know, I think, and that's another topic that I think people don't fully understand, you know, when you talk about ceremony, because when you talk about ceremony, more people than not start to drift to plant medicine or something juju like, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't think they fully understand just how, like, you know, before there was religion itself, that ceremony was a grounds that no matter what it was a place to come back, to give back to Creator, to God, you know? It was a place of offering. It was a place of healing. It was a place of surrendering with our Creator and, you know, connecting to spirit. And so we learn, you know, we do our fire ceremony, you know, of course, in Nipi Sweat Lodge, and, you know, as much as that we've been able to learn, and most of it's with the elements. You know, the elements are our greatest relatives that listen, connect us, help us to get to that neutral place to receive healing. You know, the elements are our, like, greatest ancestor. You know, they are the foundational quality to life. And so what a better place to start. And, you know, the Indigenous, I think, really showed for this. You know, despite plant medicine, like when you're seeing ceremonies, the elements are involved. There's water, there's fire, there's earth, there's air. You know, they're using these qualities because they know the power within that, you know? And that's part of, I feel like, their energetic principle is to connect us and to help us this way. Now we're in a time that, you know, it's like we see the elements lashing back. They're as if they're talking back. You know, you see the state of the world with flooding. You know, what just happened, right? With these hurricanes, with winds. You know, we just saw these tornadoes. I mean, crazy to see all those tornadoes in Florida, right? And the fires, there was just a bunch of fires a couple months ago in South America and up here. And, you know, Earth. I mean, we're going to, these next 5 years are crucial, you know, and that's what the elders say, that in these next 5 years, if nothing seems to change, we're going to live in a different world, in a different place. And, you know, it really reminds me of this one Kogi elder, you know, in the Lost City in Colombia. And we got to talk and everyone's excited. And he's just like spitting, just like, great, another group, you know. Oh, great. Good to see you guys, you know. And people are asking him the questions. Oh, yeah, what can we do? What can we, you know, what can we help with? And he just looks at everybody and he's like, you know damn well what you need to do. You know, you need to stop living like you're under a cushion. You need to stop pretending like nothing's happening in the world.
Mm-hmm.
You need to start to connect with your spiritual side of self, you know? He's like, by 2030, nothing has changed. We know the world's going to change for you, and it's going to be for a better way. And he's like, so we give it till 2030 before all of you are gone from this earth, and thank God.
Wow.
Now leave. He was,
Wow.
He was like, I'm sick of it.
Yeah.
You know, you could see it on his face. I'm sick of talking to you people.
Wow.
And you pretending like nothing is happening. And I just have to keep repeating myself. So let me say it this way, and let's see if something registers, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, oh, okay, yeah.
What do you say to that?
Yeah, it's like, yo, me and Izzy were like, that's what really when we started our, you know, our traveling and doing what we do. And I was like, I think it just like, you know, pushed us, encouraged us even more. And yeah, here we are, you know, like I said, 10 years later. So it's
very cool.
I think, but I do think ceremony and how we can learn with ceremony is an important thing right now that we can do for ourselves. You know, if that's with the, you know, and if you're connected with any Indigenous, but it doesn't take Indigenous either, you know, it just takes you to connecting into yourself. And there's different ways of ceremony. You know, and what I tell people, easily speaking, is that you have your traditional ceremonies, the ceremonies brought by the holy ones, by spirit itself. Like, you know, White Buffalo Calf Woman, she brought the 9 sacred ceremonies to the Lakota, Nakota, Dakota people, you know, and those aren't to be bent. Those ceremonies aren't to be taken away from. You know, it was brought by the holy ones in its fullest, authentic, integral way to tap into. So you don't take away from that, you know? And then you have the ceremonies that Creator gives you, you know, that are in our dreams, that come to us in our dream time, and using those senses to pick up on that and then acting on that. Because if we're able to merge those worlds, there's a power within that. When you bring that ceremony that's given to you from the dream world and then root it into the physical and bring that balance, there's a power in that, you know? And then there's, you know, I think I might have lost my last train of thought, but
no,
you get what I'm
speaking
to with these forms of ceremonies, and, you know, how to engage with them. And sometimes we're even, you know, like our own personal ceremony, you know, like it is important, you know, making sure we're having a dialogue with our Creator in a ceremonial way, whether it's just sitting and listening or it's going out on the land and doing offerings, you know. That's the one thing, and that's something that happens here a lot. And I find myself having to remind people too. It's like people come to Sedona or Shasta, but what are they coming for? More times than not, they're coming and taking.
Mm-hmm.
They're coming and taking for themselves to heal. They're coming and taking by using the recreation of the land. They're coming and taking for their own business or their own pleasure or gain. But where's the giving back? I'm always asking them, what are you giving back to the land? What are you doing? Yeah, great. You come for your healing. And I'm sure you see that in some way or another, but how are you paying that back? You know? Because this place listens, this place hears, this place sees. And it's just like any other home you go to, like a sacred site, you know? You go to, you bring, I mean, you know, you're not just going to show up to someone's house, walk in,
right,
throw your feet up on the couch and make yourself, you know, at home without asking permission, without maybe giving an offering, without having a dialogue, you know? And it's simple things like this that we have to get back in touch with, in tune with, you know?
So you're
now
saying
we're so
offerings. Are you saying like a little bit of tobacco or some sage or some sweetgrass or something along those lines, which I always try to do. I used to have a little pouch that I always carry with me, and I leave a little bit on the land and say thank you. Is that kind of what you're talking about in that sense? Okay.
Totally. Bringing some tobacco, bringing your favorite food, bringing a stone or a crystal, or bringing something near and dear to your heart. And even if you don't have anything, I pull out my hair. You pull out a little bit of my hair, you know, and give it. I'm offering, taking from me and offering to them to know, you know, that I'm coming in a good way.
Yeah.
So it's just simple things like this, and some cultures even see their spit as an offering, like part of themselves. So
Yeah.
as long as you're intentionalizing and you're coming with a good heart, and I think that's why we've been able to get as far as we have and done as much as we have, is because following these basic guidelines and principles, of how to showing up on the land, and practices and things we can do, So yeah, I think it's overall it's been such a blessing. I would never have told you that I've been blessed to do 3 ceremonies in the Great Pyramid.
Wow.
To be able to do this and shut the pyramid and in Glastonbury on top of the tour and in South Africa and in the Great Zimbabwe ruins and
Oh yeah.
like
wild.
all these sacred sites. It's like, I think it's a true testament, and it shows you. But yeah, I hope people make more time for themselves, spiritually speaking, because there's a lot we can gain, and we're entering a time now where who knows how much longer that's going to be safe for us to travel and to do these adventures, these spirit quests of sorts, because the world is changing.
Could just shut down. They want to restrict travel. They want to keep an eye on your digitalized passports and digitalized money, and they can keep tabs on everybody. There's cameras everywhere. I tell people that the freedom we have could slip away like that, and there's nothing, you can't go back from it. So are we heading in that direction? I don't know. It just seems like we're living in some weird alternate reality and it's social media kind of supercharges it, where it seems like everything is so crazy all the time. And I think it really is a crazy time, though. That's the other part of it.
Yeah, I think so. It is. It's a fun time, but it's a really interesting time. And that's why I'm like, the world doesn't need more. I mean, of course we appreciate, right? The lawyers, the doctors, this and that. But I mean, really, we're the prayers. We're the ceremonialists, That new sun is rising now. And as that new sun rises, it's starting to illuminate everything in its path, in its totality.
Boy, isn't that true right now? There's a lot
and our gifts.
of darkness being shown.
Yeah. So much. The great truth, the great revealings among us now. And that's when you look at creator, that's a foundational pillar truth, So you can only cover up the truth so long before it's going to illuminate, before it's going to ultimately show you. And that's where we're at. And this is a great time, but a very, it's a time of discernment, the time of a great discernment, because, the next things available for ourselves only lies in our spirits moving forward, That's the only place where it lies, because we're all worthy of heaven. We're all worthy of the new world. We're all worthy of what we're moving into, spiritually speaking. But it's like, are we doing the groundwork to help get ourselves there? Are we actually taking the time? Are we exercising our spirit? And I think it's great to see, because I think a lot more people are tuning into that. But I think there's still a lot more work, like I said, that involves collectively coming together.
For sure.
No, for sure.
Wow. But it's all of the. What do you think that somebody, if they're kind of just stuck right now and they just don't know where to begin to at least feel good, they have a little bit of energy running through them? Because I know there's just a lot of people that are. And, this was me after the eclipse, is just like in this fog, walking around like a zombie for half the summer. You know what I mean? It's like, I fell into that and feel like I'm coming out of it. And do you have any advice for people? Just go on a hike barefoot, go to an ancient site,
Yeah, totally. How many people do go to an ancient site, a sacred site? It's like, and I feel like the spirits, and that's what my elders told me too. It's like, you might see a rundown, broken pyramid right there, but on another level that's operating,
Mm.
and that is an existence where you're not seeing the full dimensional energetic quality of that temple space, you know. And I think that's the best thing, you know, like taking a leap for yourself, like knowing where and where you're not taking a leap for yourself, so to say, and what is it? How are you cultivating? Like, really, I think that answer lies in questioning ourselves. You know, we have to question ourselves. Like, what am I doing to put myself there? What am I doing to exercise my spirit? You
Mm-hmm.
know, um, and how do I get there? It's as easy as, you know. And I think once we're honest with ourselves, life leads us there, anyways, naturally. You know, and it's those elements that I feel like Creator guides us upon each and every day. If we're paying attention, you know, and it's really easy. If we're paying attention in three ways, we'll always have those answers. And the first one is our environment, our atmosphere. If we know the environment and atmosphere, and we know how that is affecting us, the cause and the effect, the energetic dynamics there, we can understand where we're coming from, where we're getting stuck. You know, these different things for ourselves, so to say. So looking and observing our environment. And then second is the signs and the omens. Those are always plentiful around us. How many times are we seeing 1111? How many
Mm-hmm.
times are we seeing that one image or that one word or that one place on the wall or on a shirt or in a magazine,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And these are the trail markers that Creator leaves us. It's no coincidence that we're just stumbling upon these. You know, there's an energetic pool that's showing us something there if we allow ourselves to pay attention to the signs and the omens. And then finally is our relations. Our relations is the best form of biofeedback that we can have amongst ourselves to know ourselves from self to self, you know, and to see the things we might be holding on to, the fears, the traumas, the healing. You know, all of this lies embedded in some way or another between our relations. Something has brought us or magnetically attracted us to this person to heal one part, or they can help us spiritually speaking, so to say, as well, right? Maybe
Wow.
they're a
Yeah.
teacher. Maybe they have something to offer to us in that way. So I feel like we have the answers to that, but we just have to be more in tune to like how nature is, you know? And we really have to get outside, you know, we've come a little discomplaced from nature by being too comfortable in these electrical cages, you know, meaning grid cities. You know, I call them electrical cages because they
Yeah.
that concrete, those 5G towers, everything, it's a cage. Everyone's in a cage. When you look
Mm-hmm.
at it, it's a cage. You know, they have everyone. What I say is colonization never stopped. They just got smarter. You know, if you control the food, if you control the water, if you control the media source,
Mm-hmm.
those are the only things you need in order to break somebody down and manipulate somebody into what you're wanting them to do. You know?
Sure.
Yeah, you know, and that's how what they show whenever somebody's abducted. You know, they show and brainwashed. This is what they're doing. They're breaking down their resources and they're building them up how they want. You know, and you're going to listen to somebody that has their hand on your resources. You
Sure.
know, if you want to live,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
So it's like these are the things, you know, and we're all realizing this. We just have to. You know, it's hard to choose to do the right in these circumstances always and to stay on top of that. You know, we live in, especially in this world, a compulsive, disorder, disease, pharmaceutical, you know, manipulative society that creates this individual that breaks, that divides the people, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And once we start to come together and once things really start to change, you'll see, you know. But I think we're too ingrained as a world, as a government system. Like we're too down for that hole to turn back. We really are. What I've said and what I've always said is we need an intervention.
Mm.
And I don't think this intervention is going to take place within this world. It's going to come from outside of this world.
Yeah, for sure. External factor to get some change.
Yeah.
And that could come in the form of anything.
A comet, an asteroid.
Anything,
Yeah.
right?
Aliens.
Who knows?
Well, isn't that what Project Blue Book talked about, right? Is like talking about, already getting there. They've known about this. So it's like,
Yeah.
they've already known, but we just need to know better. And I think there's signs, and like I said, things showing us the way. We have to trust ourselves more, because we put our power outside of ourselves so much, depending on the government, depending on our family, depending on different resources and things, that we forgot about how to trust ourselves to come back to that center, And but that's where a lot of that spiritual upliftment and fulfillment is, within ourselves. So we're in an interesting time, guys. It's beautiful times, but it's I think it's poignant and demanding times that is encouraging us all to show up and do the work. And we're in the last 5-year tunnel. These last 5 years are going to determine so much, in our world, so to say. But, how are you fulfilling yourself through your spirit, is what I come back to,
Great question.
That'll help set you up for down the road. Yeah.
Absolutely. And that's something, we've struggled with down here is like, we've never tried to chase clout. We've always tried to be ourselves and pursue our passions, with whether it's, interviewing Adam, interviewing Tom and Terri, or whoever it is, just pursuing our passions, and hopefully one day, hey, if this works out, we can make a living at it. That's amazing. But right now it's just staying focused of like, hey, let's do this because we love it. We want to talk to Adam and hear about all of his, but also we need to get out there in the world more.
Sure.
The last couple of years we've kind of been in this studio building this show, and it's been hard to balance everything where, we want to get back to the Verde Valley. There's a couple unfinished video projects of V-Bar V and the Serpent Petroglyph and some of these things that I'd love to take Bub and Stone to Chaco Canyon, or and there's stuff here in our backyard, frankly, that we haven't fully discovered. So this year, the end of this year has been about finding balance, and in 2025 I really am hopeful that all of these things can come together and we can find true balance and continue, because getting out there is so important for my soul, is being on the ground, meeting people like you. If we weren't out doing that shoot with Tom and Terri, we would have never met you. We would have never met, I think now there's 6 or 7 people from that event that we've had on this show.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So it's been awesome getting to know you over the years, man. I love what you guys are doing. I would love, if you guys are ever in Ohio, to have you in studio, have Izzy play some music for us, do a recording with some of his incredible native instruments, and and if would love to team up with you guys in the future on some project. And if that's
totally
Spirit
I'd
Wheel,
love for you guys to come out the Spirit Quest,
That would be cool.
if that's in Egypt or in the Medicine Wheel. Yeah, definitely. I think you guys we've had a few different like filmers and people come from different parts of the world. We had a group from Sweden and I think a group from Mexico. But they've always catch some cool things on their devices too.
Yeah.
So it's it's fun to show up to these places. You just never know. You could find contact. That's why I feel like some of these places are already kind of prepping for that. The energetically speaking too. So it's like
interesting.
Oh man, it's like it's coming.
Yeah, it's palpable.
So like some of these. Oh yeah. Everything leading up, culminating. It's for a reason, for sure. I'm excited though. Like I said, I'm excited to see what comes of it, and maybe, who knows, build the first star embassy, right? We're gonna have to have passports there too, right?
Yeah.
Start going.
Hopefully, I don't know that we discussed that at some point, but like aliens, are they worrying about money and credit cards? And no, they're intergalactic, interstellar. Like they just that's the whole thing though. And that's kind of what you were saying earlier with the whole analogy to the chief and to the farmer and to the that's the whole every part of the spoke coming together to make the full wheel so you can actually roll along. Like if we're not connecting, and that's another thing, if we're not connecting, whether it's a community, whether that's a group, whether that's intercultural, well, we're not going to make it as a fractured.
Yeah,
fractured,
totally. No, that's how we get to know and get to dive in as a community. You know, it's like, I know a lot of people around, especially, around the world really want to have this fluffy idea of community, but community's not going to be as easy as, I'll bring my friends, both of you bring your friends, and let's do the thing.
Yeah.
And a lot of times that's how they all break down, because they don't understand spiritually what's involved.
Yeah.
They just see it on the physical level.
Yeah.
But spiritually, what about that karma between your friend and my friend? Or what about these other alchemical, spiritual qualities that we're not speaking of, that once it alchemizes, anything's alchemy. It can, it can explode.
Yeah.
Depending on the substance, the alchemy of it, how it's brought together. So, these are other qualities and things we're just going to have to learn along the way too. But, it's really going to have to start with family, friends, and building from there, these communities and whatnot. And, that's why I feel like, I'll probably be part of as well. We're looking at land here in order to continue our work with ceremony and bringing ceremony into and music into institutions, mental institutions, hospital institutions of all sorts, and native institutions too. Because these are the things that really help somebody. And we've doing this, we've gotten so much good feedback and seen so many good things happen out of this. Like I go with one of my bros. He's Apache, and he does drumming circles in these mental hospital institutions. And I've gone with him a few times, and you know what? The people there at working will be like, "Oh, they won't drum. They won't do anything." And then the moment he'll just be like, "Well, we just want to include them, so we're going to give them a drum." And then by the end of it, they're banging on the drum. There's a smile wide. They're into it, and to see this is like, that's the medicine, that's what we're coming back to. He had a woman that hadn't spoken in 7 years. And the moment he started to drum and sing rainbow songs, she started to talk, and the nurse ran out and got the doctor, and was like, she's speaking. She's singing,
Yep.
These are the lost elements and qualities that, humanity has really lost, that's going to help recalibrate, bring us back on track. And that's what the ancient ones left us. That's what I've always looked at. That's what I've always gone by, on some level. It was like coming into this where I was like, but wait, there's something more. Like, where did I leave that map? Where's that imprint? And then the more I went to these sacred sites, the more they showed me, the more I was like, oh yeah, it's been here all along. You guys left it for us. It's in the wall. That's the petroglyph, It's in the pictoglyph down in the canyon. It's in the sacred site or the medicine wheel that you left us. Oh yeah. So, but yeah, I would love for you guys to come out with us one of these times. And I'd love to come back to Ohio. It's been a little bit since I've been there. I like Ohio though. Ohio's like the Arizona of the East Coast, I feel like,
It's a lot of strange stuff going on.
There's a lot here. There's a lot here.
Yeah. I didn't realize how many mounds were out there. We did
the most of any state.
Yeah. But even we did this whole prayer caravan in 2021 from Sedona all the way to Florida. And we went all the way up and started in Denver, then went over to Cahokia Mounds. And from Cahokia Mounds, we went east. And every state we went through, there was a mound.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
There was a sacred site.
Indiana.
All the way. I'm talking from Cahokia to there's Illinois.
Indiana.
I'm missing a few states. Indiana,
and then
Nebraska.
I mean, I'm sure they're up in Minnesota, Michigan.
Wisconsin has tons.
Wisconsin. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Pennsylvania.
Yes.
Pennsylvania.
We went down into Virginia, West Virginia, Georgia, all the way down to the Keys.
Tons.
Oh,
Georgia has a lot. Like Etowah, that's in Georgia.
Yeah.
There's a ton.
it does.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was amazing. I was like, and nobody knows this. Nobody. They're like, there's a bunch of mounds like in our country.
oh my
like,
God, thousands. We had 10,000 just in Ohio before they destroyed most of them. We have 1,000 left. And those are mounds. It's kind of a loose term, but like earthworks and mounds, burial mounds, but earthwork kind of temple complexes, if you will. But man, brother, love your message. Love where you guys are coming from. So much positivity and, really trying to I love your guys' story and where you came from and where you guys are heading and the work that you're doing. Incredible stuff. This has been a beautiful conversation, man. Every time I talk to you, we connect, whether it's 10, 15, we've talked for over an hour on the phone before, where every time I talk to you, man, my spirit just gets on fire.
Yeah, definitely, brother. Same.
It's awesome. Leave us with where we can find you, where people can connect with your organization, you and Izzy, the work that you're doing, social media stuff, and
For sure. Yeah. So we have a website. Our website is treeoflight.earth. And it's not light. It's not life, but light, like light of the sun. So treeoflight.earth. And then on Facebook, we've created a page since starting. And this was before even our organizational name. And it's called Ancestral Medicine Revival. And so you can click and join the group there. And then we, treeoflight.earth is also our Instagram. And that's pretty much it. Izzy, my brother, does sell cacao. So he has a big cacao platform. And you can check him out, I think, at Cacao Code, KAKAO Code, KODE. And he ships cacao and hooks everybody up with cacao from Colombia with the Indigenous that we work with there.
Very cool.
Beautiful.
Brother, yes.
Amazing stuff. Again, thank you so much. Everybody, Adam Shield of the Feather. Adam,
thank you, man. That was fun.
That was good. It was fun. I look forward to it.
Yeah.
Been a little while coming. I know we've talked about this, but it just never lined up.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you were just like it was just like, hey, let's do this.
Yeah.
And you're like, here's put it down on the calendar. Let's just do it. It's good way to get
once
me
it's
going
on the calendar, it becomes real to me. So
absolutely,
so happy we did this. Adam Shield of the Feather, everyone. Adam, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Say goodbye to you. We're gonna do a short outro of the show. All right, brother. Thank you.
Oh, blessing.
Later, brother.
That was awesome.
That was stellar.
Yeah, Adam's amazing, dude.
There's a lot happening out there.
Yeah. And, this has really fired me up to, I know it's like, what we have to do. And then there's just starting the process of doing it. And we're getting closer and closer to that point where the energy is flowing and moving. So, and people like Adam is who I connect with to kind of get that reconnection. So I've been looking forward to this one and hope you guys out there enjoyed this one as much as we did. You guys know where to find us at the Strange Road all over the place. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Bob, any final words?
I don't think so.
All right. Much love to Stoner. Much love to Adam. Much love to all of you. Love, peace, and chicken grease. We are out.
Later.